All right, so good morning. Today is Tuesday, April 21st, and this is your live Q&A for AP English. Today we'll take questions over embedding quotes, the revisions for essay number 6, and the AP test in general. We did learn something important in the class today, an update on the prompt, and that is when you see the passage. In previous years, they've told us when the novel or the play was written for the prose analysis. They've also told us who wrote it and what the name of the work is. But this year, they're not telling us either one, not telling us any of that information, which I think is kind of interesting. It takes away, if you have historical knowledge or you know something about a particular author, those are things that you could add in your so what or in part of your commentary. Knowing when a certain work is written and referencing historical events. So that's something that's not there. But on the other hand, if you don't know a whole lot of history and you don't know a whole lot about authors, then it kind of levels the playing field. It really narrows the focus to what can you get out of that passage in front of you. So I think in that area, it's actually kind of levels the playing field on the basis of what people know and what they've been exposed to as far as history classes are concerned. I thought that the information about the thesis statement in the class today was very helpful, particularly with the importance of addressing the complex nature of the question. It's going to ask you about a character's complex attitude or a narrator's complex attitude or about complex experiences or perhaps complex tone, maybe a shift where a mood or tone shifts from one to the other. And your thesis statement is going to need to identify both of those. Like in the example that they talked about from Cinderella in the class, they said she is hopeless, but also unwavering in her adherence to social rules. In other words, she's hopeless, but she's still going to follow rules. And the key, when you see "but" also in that thesis, that means that the person who wrote that thesis gets the sense that there are two warring feelings in her mind during the passage. And I've said this from day one, the best way to organize your passage is not by device. Not say, okay, I'm going to talk about imagery, then I'm going to talk about irony, or okay, I'm going to talk about metaphor, then I'm going to talk about hyperbole. Instead, either break it into parts. You're going to talk about, like on practice essay 6, I recommended that you talk about perhaps a description of the hospital and then the description of John's conversation with the nurse. Here you could talk about, if you were writing that essay about Cinderella, you could write a body paragraph about her hopelessness, and then also a body paragraph showing that she's going to adhere to those social rules. She's going to follow what she's expected to do, even though she feels like there isn't any hope. So your thesis statement should address both sides of the complexity, and that also gives you a launching pad for your organization of your paper. One reason that I've suggested that you not organize your paper by device, imagery and irony or simile and paradox is you could fall into the trap of having the same quote in both body paragraphs. It happened to several people in practice essay 6. So again, either organize it by part. I'm going to talk about this part of the passage and then this part of the passage, or break it down by which side of the complexity. First, you're going to talk about hopelessness with Cinderella, then you're going to talk about the unwavering nature. I have not put a thesis statement together for the passage for essay 7. I did put that passage up in Google Classroom, but I'd like you to wrestle with that yourself when it's time for you to write that essay before you see what I did or do, because I haven't done it Another thing from the class, there's going to be a screenshot that's included that has the 3 different levels of thesis quality that they talk about. It's pretty easy to get that point. Kind of like on the STAR essay, EOC, it was pretty easy to get a 2 out of 4. But it was hard to get a 4, and it wasn't all that easy to get a 3. You had to really go deep and, deeper with your commentary. But a 2 is pretty easy to get. A 1's pretty easy to get on this essay as far as your thesis. But as far as getting those 3 you need 4 total points to pass. So if you want to get, and you don't want to be riding on your polish point. Oh, do I have enough polish to pass? So you want to get 3 points at least on organization. And you're not going to get those 3 points for organization if you don't have complexity in your thesis, because you can't write a complex, sophisticated paper on the basis of, a simplistic thesis. You just can't do it. So you want to make sure that your thesis statements address both sides of that complexity. I have gotten a couple questions on Remind. Let's see, can you still turn an essay 6? Sure, you can turn that in and I'll grade it. I'll give you feedback. The idea is for you to get as much practice as possible. Looks like I got that same question a few times. So if there are any questions here, now would be the time to put them in the live chat. Or if you feel confident about your abilities with the thesis statement, then go ahead and put one together for that passage that I put in Google Classroom. And you can see how yours compares with what they come up with in the review class tomorrow. So tomorrow we will have review class at 11, and then Q&A at 11:50 for those who have questions. Have not heard anything yet about decisions regarding senior events. So that decision's still to come. So we will see you tomorrow.